Welcome to Coffee and Tantrums, the podcast for teachers and parents tackling child behavior challenges head on. Hosted by Kevin Cranston, a seasoned teacher with 10 years of experience, including 2 years running a behavior unit and a master's degree in school counseling. Join Kevin each week for expert tips, practical strategies, and answers to your questions. Let's turn chaos into calm together.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Tantrums. I'm your host, Kevin Cranston, and today we're going to explore one of my favorite subjects in counseling and psychotherapy, and that is Gestalt therapy. When I first entered counseling and started studying it in grad school, I really had no idea what type of counselor or therapist I wanted to be, and Gestalt therapy was a type of therapy that really resonated with me. And it was a counseling that it's a main form of counseling that I follow along with play therapy. And it's just an approach that helps the student and the client overall grow as an individual. I think it works amazingly well with kids. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start off by what Gestalt therapy is. Gestalt therapy was developed by Fritz Perls and his wife, Laura Perls. Fritz Perls is a very interesting person. He actually had a theater background, so he was really into performances and acting. And that's really you could see where he brought that into Gestalt therapy. So Gestalt therapy has a lot of acting out things and performing and really getting to play the different parts of who you are. And overall, very interesting person. I might even just do a brief biography in the future into him because I find him so fascinating as an individual. So Gestalt comes from the German word meaning whole, shape, or form. And the core idea is that we must understand the entirety of an individual's experience rather than just breaking it down into separate components. And then Fritz Perls emphasized the importance of understanding behavior within the context of the present, rather than dwelling on past experiences or future anxieties. And I really think even with me, I have some form of an adjustment disorder. So I have a lot of anxiety, and Gestalt therapy just speaks so well to me on a personal level because I find myself worried about the future and scared and then upset about unfinished business in the past and really having trouble staying in the present. But when I'm in the present, the anxiety goes away. When I'm not worried about the future, when I'm not worried about the past, the anxiety does go away. And this definitely is going to contrast with traditional psychoanalysis, which often focuses on exploring past experiences to understand current behavior. So instead of really focusing on the past, we focus on the present with Gestalt therapy. But what's really cool about it is you can bring stuff from the past up to the present. So it's not that we're going to ignore the past, but we're going to focus on what matters and then bring that to the present light so you can really learn strategies and coping skills for handling it. So Gestalt therapy is built on several key principles. The most important key principle is definitely the here and now. Gestalt therapy stresses the importance of living in the present moment. By focusing on the here and now, clients can are encouraged to express their current feelings and their thoughts. So we're really fully engaging in the present. And when I do sessions with clients, I'll even just try to keep those sessions in the present as much as possible. So if a child was talking about something in the past that happened to them, we would switch it over to present tense and kind of see how it affects them now. There's also a concept called holism in Gestalt therapy. So holism is a principle that views that individuals are complete and whole. and it considers their physical, emotional, and mental experiences. It means looking at how different aspects of a person's life are interconnected. So it's not like we're not just like a bunch of pieces. Like something that happens to us is going to affect something else, kind of like the butterfly effect. It's going to have something else. So, for example, like work might get you stressed, and then because of that stress, like your stomach might hurt, or your shoulders might get tight, or you might become emotionally irritable. Your body really will like kind of show your stress. Like if you think about it for a second, like when you are stressed or when you're depressed or when you're feeling those strong emotions, like what does your body do? So I've had a lot of people say that when they're mad, like they get headaches, or when they're scared, they just like their body can't stop like shaking. They can't like focus or sit still. And so we really do have those physical sensations to stressors, and your body's trying to tell you something. And Gestalt therapy is really just focusing on how can we help you better understand yourself and for you to understand what your body is trying to tell you. Which brings me to my next key concept of Gestalt therapy, which is awareness. Awareness, so it's basically, that's how you sort of improve your state by increasing your awareness of yourself and your environment. So you want to become more attuned to like how your body's feeling, any behaviors, any thoughts you have. And like that's where with Gestalt therapy, we really want to bring it back to like how are you reacting? What is your body doing when you say this? And a lot of times there's going to be a lot of incongruence in the client. So a client could be talking about a sad memory, but then they're smiling. And that's an incongruence in the body. And that's something you would point out in a loving, caring way. Like, hey, like that was a really sad thing you stated, but you were smiling. And then we're not like shaming them for smiling. I'm curious as to why are they smiling. And then you're increasing their awareness as to, well, they could have been smiling because, just because that's how they cope when they're sad. They smile when they're sad. They've always smiled when they're sad. It's their defense mechanism. But like right there, we're increasing their awareness of why they smile, of that incongruence. Another concept in Gestalt therapy is field theory. This principle suggests that an individual cannot be separated from their environment or context. So understanding a person requires looking at their interactions with their field. So we're not just like on a blank slate. Like we have relationships, we have social settings, we have just the broader environment that we live in. And it's super important to just look at the client as a whole, not just as like this is a person, but like this is a person who's for example, we can look at me. I'm a person who's a teacher. Teaching is a stressful job. Sometimes I take that home with me. It gets me stressed. Like you see, but it also is really rewarding to me. So you see how teaching does all, like how I'm not just person, but I have all these different things about me, all these relationships. Another concept would be figure and ground, which is really an interesting concept. So it describes how we perceive experiences. So some elements stand out. So some important experiences we've had are like the figure, while others kind of recede or hide in the background. In therapy, this might involve focusing on a specific emotion or thought that stands out during a session. So everything a client says has meaning. Like we only have them for 45 minutes. And what they choose to talk about, there's always a purpose behind it. And we kind of want to see why. Like, why are they choosing to talk about this particular thing? What's the significance behind it? And the final part of the final key principle in Gestalt therapy would be self-regulation. This involves a process by which individuals maintain balance and meet their needs. Gestalt therapy clients are encouraged to identify their needs and find healthy ways to satisfy them. So we all kind of have these needs in life, and we just want to make sure that we are having our needs met, and we were doing it in a productive manner. The most important thing that I like, so now we're going to go on to like some techniques and exercises in Gestalt therapy. And this is kind of like what made me fall in love with Gestalt therapy, and that it's all about like experimentation. With all the other ones, like there's a set of questions you give and you follow the questions, and the questions kind of lead to outcomes of kind of tells you what to do. It's like a template. But with Gestalt therapy, it's more honestly art, I feel like, than a science. I mean, you look at a client and you kind of see what works, what techniques are helping them, and what techniques are not helping them. So I was going to go over, like I said, some of these techniques, and I can even kind of explain how I might use it in a session. So the first one, and the most popular one in Gestalt therapy, would be empty chair technique. That's when a client sits in front of an empty chair and they imagine someone they need to talk to. It's really good for unfinished business. So let's say a client's mom left them and it was abrupt, they got divorced, and they haven't seen their mom in like years. Well, there's a lot of unfinished business, and we can use empty chair to kind of like bring that to the forefront. So yeah, the kid might never get to say goodbye to their mom because their mom never might show up. But they can sort of act it out, and that could help them sort of, in a sense, really get to say goodbye to their mom or get some closure. So with empty chair, the child would actually talk to an empty chair, and they would pretend that that's their mother. Sometimes they might even act out both sides, where like they could pretend to be the mother and themselves. But for empty chair, they'd be talking to an empty chair, and then they would just really keep it in the present and talk to their mom about how sad they are that they left, how they miss them, how they might have some anger, how they're angry that they left without telling them. You know, like there's just, you can bring that unfinished business to the present. I know like it sounds silly, but it really works, especially with children. And then besides empty chair technique, as I was kind of alluding to, there's also role playing. That's how we can act out different parts or different perspectives to gain insight. So that, going back to that client, that's where like he could pretend to be his mother and himself and just kind of switch roles. And like, you know, as he's acting out his mother, like he'll learn kind of more about her perspective. Like maybe she was being abused by the dad and she had to go. Or like it was like an emergency, or, you know, maybe she, you know, like it was an emergency, or there was just something that caused it to happen. And like by acting it out, the student might, or the child might be able to really get the perspective of the mother who left. Works super well for a lot of different things. I like it when friends are fighting, because it happens a lot with kids. They might get into a fight and they don't really know how to even like apologize. So role playing is a great way for them to just kind of practice apologizing without actually having to apologize. It's kind of a nice little first step. Another thing, I don't really use this one too much, but it's pretty cool. It is dream work. So Fritz Perls really believed that dreams just had like a lot of meaning behind them. He would have the clients act out the dreams. Eventually, actually, I did do this once. Actually, I forgot. So I've done this before, but very rare. Just because I had a client who really was like into his dreams and wouldn't stop. What kept on bringing them up. So yeah, dream work is really cool. So like pretend like I guess you dreamt that there was like a building, two buildings, and like a giant like crack in between them. He'd have you pretend to be the crack in between the two buildings and find a deeper meaning behind it. Like maybe you're trapped between two sides of you, two decisions, you don't know what to do. You're kind of stuck in that crack. You're trying to get out, but you're suffocating. Like, see, like there's just ways to like sort of act out the dreams. Works really well with kids. The next step, another technique we can use in Gestalt therapy is body awareness. I kind of mentioned that briefly at the beginning. But that's where we just focus on like why is our body reacting the way it is. So for me personally, like my shoulders get really tense, really tight. And like when they feel tight, I know, okay, I'm getting stressed. So I might meditate, take a couple deep breaths, and then I can feel my shoulders like just like loosen. Same thing with my stomach. When I'm getting stressed, I know I need to eat because I forget to eat and my stomach starts hurting. So like finding out why your body does certain things is just so useful, and creating that body awareness is so beneficial in life because you can kind of like realize, hey, my body's doing that, which means I'm mad. I need to do this to calm down. Like your body's telling you something, and when you start listening to it, it's going to make your life so much better. The final thing with Gestalt therapy is experimentation. And this is why I fell in love with Gestalt therapy. It's really more of an art than a science. So you really get to try out these techniques. Now eventually you kind of know like some work better with others. I think it's with like, for example, if they've been through trauma, extreme trauma, I don't think empty chair works that well. Like there was some study that showed that empty chair isn't as effective if they've been through trauma. So they're kind of going to like deflect and hide from it. So like that's where like experimentation comes in. Like see what works for the kids, what doesn't work for the students or clients, depending on their age. Yeah. See what works, see what doesn't work, and just kind of go from there. That's what's so cool about Gestalt therapy is every client's different, and every strategy that works for them is going to be different depending on the client. I'm now going to go on to ways that we can like do applications of Gestalt therapy, how it can be applied in therapies. So the main way I use it would be with individual therapy. That's how I used it with my clients. Works really well with kids. It can help with anxiety, and just really learning like the underlying feelings behind what's causing these strong emotions. I've seen it work in group therapy as well. I've never actually done a group therapy session with Gestalt therapy, but I've done I guess lessons that kind of followed similar principles. I mean, the role play is really useful in that. Like, you can really act out situations and work through things together. It's really cool because it kind of can create a sense of community, and group therapy are just really efficient. So if you want to get the most amount of clients, like in the least amount of time, like group therapy can do the most good. There was actually for a while a type of, so you can use like Gestalt therapy for family therapy. And for a while there actually was like a family therapy. I don't think it's really in practice right now, but there was Gestalt family therapy. Let me look up the guy's name really quick. I actually watched a couple lectures that he did. This was like back in the 80s. I'm trying to find out the founder of it. Let me just Google it really quick, because I forgot the name of it. But yeah, there actually was like, and they're giving me Fritz Perls, but there was somebody else who actually like developed a form of Gestalt therapy that was a family, a Gestalt therapy for the family. And it was really interesting to see that approach, where you just kind of like do a Gestalt therapy with the whole family involved. Let me see if, let me just see if I can get it really quick. Let me try one more time, just so I can give the person credit. No, they're still telling me it's just 3 main people, but I know that there was someone who actually like really got it towards Gestalt family therapy. But going on, Gestalt therapy, the principles can really be applied outside of therapy as well. So there's also the educational setting. I use it all the time as a teacher to help kids really focus on the here and now, and like really just trying to get their emotional needs met before we do academics. I mean, like, what is the point of them scoring well if they're not emotionally stable? I can give you an example of why I sort of switched over to counseling when I was a teacher. So I had a student who had a lot of emotional problems, like definitely undiagnosed mental disorders. I got her to pass the test easily in math. Super happy with myself, super happy with her. Then 3 years after that, she tried to kill herself. And after that, I was like, what's the point of like they need to be really need to like help these kids overall and not just academics. And that's really why I really think Gestalt therapy is so cool because it can help them get their emotional needs met so that they can score well on tests and be successful adults. Gestalt therapy can also be useful in the workplace settings. There's a type of therapy called career therapy, and we focus on helping a person's career grow and have them be successful in their careers and their chosen path. Career therapy is kind of like, hey, jobs are so important. Your career takes up so much of your life that therapy should be focused only on the career, which I think is pretty interesting. But definitely Gestalt therapy can be thrown into your career. Look at how I use it when I teach. If I'm getting stressed, I can tell on my shoulders, helps me calm down once I recognize that. So, in conclusion, Gestalt therapy offers an holistic and experiential approach to personal growth and healing. By focusing on the present moment and embracing the entirety of our experiences, we can achieve greater self-awareness and live more authentic lives. The key is to be your genuine self. I find the principles of Gestalt therapy to be super rewarding in my classroom. Helping these kids know about the here and now, role-playing tough situations, really helps them just grow as individuals. Overall, Gestalt therapy is, like I said, my main approach. I also use play therapy, just kids speak through play. But Gestalt therapy, those techniques are really just amazing. It's so useful. You can even use it for yourself, just to sort of help you grow as a person, find any unfinished business you are dealing with, and just sort of learn to live in the present. So overall, thank you so much for joining me on this journey into Gestalt therapy. If you have any questions, you can leave them on the Spotify channel page or on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Coffee and Tantrums for more insightful episodes on child behavior, parenting, education, and child therapy. Until next time, remember, keep your coffee strong and your tantrums short.